Greetings, one and all, and welcome to this biology lesson. Here we are going to consider question number 2, and this question is coming from a biology BGCSE past paper. So this biology paper 2, BGCSE past paper, and this is coming all the way from 2010. And so let's begin with question number 2. Question number 2, it states the following. The diagram shows a seashore ecosystem in the Bahamas. So here in this diagram, this represents a seashore ecosystem in the Bahamas. And in this seashore ecosystem, we can see the conch, right? We can see the seaweed labeled C. We can see the grouper labeled B. We can see the crab, right? We can see the heron labeled A, or the heron labeled A, okay? And we want to answer the following questions based on this diagram, okay? And also based on the concepts related to this diagram. So we have this first question, AI, and it states, write a food chain using the organisms labeled A, B, and C. Again, write a food chain using the organisms labeled A, B, and C. All right, so let's grab this image here and we are going to construct this food chain. Let me paste it here and expand it out. Okay, expand it out, and let's expand it out some more, and now let's create this food chain. What's important to note, okay, what's important to note is the actual letters and what animals they are pointing to. So A points to the heron, okay, this animal here, okay. B points to the grouper, and C points to the seaweed, okay. And so the question is, how are we going to do this food chain, okay? Will who will be at the top of the food chain? Which organism will be at the beginning of the food chain, and then who would eat who and who would eat who? Okay. So if we were to put the heron first, right, and the heron is A, if we were to put the heron, okay, and then put the grouper, and then put the seaweed, that would obviously be wrong. And the reason why that would be wrong is because the grouper is not going to eat the heron, and the seaweed cannot eat the grouper. Okay, so we have to switch it up, right, such that we have, right, that the first item or the first organism in the food chain is the seaweed. All right, so the first organism in the food chain is going to be the seaweed. So let's make space. All right, the first organism in the food chain is the seaweed. All right, then what is going to eat the seaweed? Well, the grouper is going to eat the seaweed. So the grouper. And then who's going to eat the grouper? Well, the heron is going to eat the grouper. Okay, the heron is going to eat the grouper. So this is a correct food chain using the organisms that we have, the seaweed, the grouper, and the heron. Okay. Using the letters from the diagram, we can do it as such. C will be eaten by B, which will be eaten by A. Okay. Okay, moving right along to the other question. All right, and what do we have here? It says, name the primary consumer in your food chain. Name the primary consumer in your food chain. Now, the primary consumer, that is going to be the consumer. So let's grab this here and let's go back to our slides. Okay, it's important to note that the primary consumer, all right, the primary consumer, this is the organism, right? This is the organism. This is the organism that what? That eats the producer. Okay? This is the organism that eats the producer. All right? Or that eats the plants. Okay? Okay, so if we look at our food chain, let's go back to our food chain. Here we have the seaweed, the grouper, and the heron. Which organism eats the seaweed? Well, the grouper is the one that eats the producer, or the grouper is the one that eats the plant. All right, and so there we have it, the seaweed. So the grouper is the primary consumer because it eats the producer. Okay, and so here the correct answer is the grouper. The grouper. Okay, moving right along. The question states the following. It states, okay, during which months, is it illegal to harvest the Nassau grouper? During which months is it illegal to harvest the Nassau grouper? So let's grab that and let's put it onto our PowerPoint here so that we could be able to write on it. So during which months is it illegal to harvest the Nassau grouper? And the months that it's illegal to harvest the Nassau grouper is December to February. December to February. All right, awesome. Now, let's move on to the next question. And the next question states the following. Why was this time period selected? So here for question BI, they're asking which month is it illegal to harvest the Nassau grouper. We already saw that the months that it's illegal to harvest the Nassau grouper is December to February. But the question is, why was this time period selected? This period wherein we have it being illegal to harvest the Nassau grouper. Why is this time period selected, or why was this time period selected? And the answer, okay, and the answer to this question, you can try it on your own and come up with a reason why you think you know um, it would be the time period was selected. This particular time period was selected so that it would be illegal to harvest an Nassau grouper during that time. But the reason why is because during this time, the groupers, right? The groupers are mating. Okay. So during this time, the groupers are mating. And so since the groupers are mating during this time, you don't want to bother that process. Okay. To um you don't want to inhibit them or prevent them from mating. You don't want that to be a problem there. So this time period was selected so as to allow the grouper to mate, allow them to have their young, and allow them to have some space before we go ahead and we harvest them. Because if we continue harvest, even during their mating season, eventually their population is going to be no more. So you give them some time to mate, give them some time to reproduce, give them some time to catch themselves, and then go ahead back and harvest them. That's the idea there. So give them some time to mate. Okay, so moving right along. The sand dollar is an organism that lives on the sandy beach. Okay, sorry. Okay, the sand. Let's get this. Let's get it right here from this question and then put it on the slide. Okay. All right. So it says here. The sand dollar is an organism that lives on the sandy beach. State two problems it encounters in its habitat during low tide. Okay, so the sand dollar is an organism that lives on the sandy beach. What are two problems that this organism, the sand dollar, is going to encounter during low tide? So during low tide, it encounters some problems. What are two problems? They want us to state two problems that the sand dollar will encounter during low tide. The first problem that the sand dollar will encounter during low tide is high temperatures. Okay, high temperature. Okay, that's going to be a problem for the sand dollar during low tide. The second problem that's going to be a second problem for the sand dollar during low tide is predators. Okay, predators. It can be eaten by predators. Okay, so predators are going to cause a problem to the sand dollar during high tide. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Okay, it says here the sand dollar burrows into the sand. Describe one structural feature which allows it to do this easily. Okay, so the sand dollar burrows, okay, into the sand. Okay, so the sand dollar burrows into the sand. Describe one structural feature which allows it to do this easily. Okay, and so let's answer this question here. What structural feature that allows the sand dollar to do this easily? Okay, and here the answer is its tube feet. Okay, its tube feet. So because of the sand dollar's tube feet, all right, it's going to allow it to burrow into the sand easily. Okay, so tube feet is the answer for that. All right, moving right along with this, with almost done with that section. And it says here, the last zone of the seashore is the scrub woodland zone. Again, the last zone of the seashore is the scrub woodland zone. Name one type of plant that is typically found here. Okay, in the scrub woodland zone. Name one type of plant that is typically found here. Okay, so let's grab this question and move forward. Okay, so I'm gonna expand this out further. All right, and let's move it over. All right, great. So there are, we're gonna give you more than one. They only asked for one, but I'm gonna give you more than one. I'm gonna give you four. Okay, and you could choose any one to put on the exam. Any one of these would be correct. Okay. So number one, we have sea grape, sea grape tree. Okay, sea grape tree. Number two, um, the cocoa plum tree. Okay, the cocoa plum tree. Number three, the buttonwood tree. So the buttonwood tree. Number four, the silver top. Okay, so silver top. So either one of these four could work. So in the scrub woodland zone, we have the sea grape tree. We also have the cocoa plum tree. Okay, we also have the buttonwood tree, and we also have the silver top. Okay, these are examples of plants typically found in the scrub woodland zone. Okay, all right, now to our final question for this section. It states, describe one advantage that these plants have over the plants that live in the pioneer zone. So describe one advantage that these plants have over the plants that live in the pioneer zone. So these plants, the ones that are in the scrub woodland zone, what advantage do these plants have over the plants that live in the pioneer zone? Okay, and so let's answer that question. So I'm going to put it here and we're going to extend it. All right. Okay, so one advantage, one advantage is the following. So here we could say the soil, okay? The soil is more stable, okay? The soil is more stable, okay? And we can also say there is less salinity in this zone. So there is less salinity, okay, in this zone. All right, so those would be either one of these because it's only one mark. All right, they didn't ask for two. All right, so you could either put this one or this one. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this video. Hopefully you found it to be helpful, and I'll see you in another video.